everybody, welcome back to What the Film. I'm your host, Logan Thompson, joined as always by
Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hi, hello, everybody. You didn't call this a movie podcast.
I did not, because it's, sometimes it's obvious, or at least sometimes I think it's obvious it's a movie podcast, and other times I question myself because, it's What the Film. So and maybe some people get confused.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, so sometimes I feel like, people get that films are movies, but other times I'm like, let me just remind the people.
You're in college, like an identity crisis always on the horizon is just kind of like the day-to-day.
So are you saying that I'm having an identity crisis?
Well, I'm saying the podcast is an extension of you and me, and so if we are having identity crises, it's only natural that the podcast does too.
Fair?
Yeah.
I don't know if we are. I don't think I am. Oh, well, anyways, that was
kind of really existential.
Yeah, that was really existential. So, anywho.
Skibbity toilet.
Yeah, let's talk about the news. Starting off with, Michael Bay is planning on making a Skibbity toilet movie.
Why?
At first, this seemed like a really bad idea. At first. Now, let me get into why this might not be that horrible of an idea. When I thought that Skibbity Toilet was just that little short of a guy's head popping out of a toilet, being like, Skibbity Toilet, blah, 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 like whatever he says, I was like, oh, that's a weird idea. But it's a lot more than that. The creator of that initial short proceeded to make hundreds more and now makes like these action video game series where he like modifies some video game and has like a storyline and seasons and episodes all with like Skibbity Toilet. So there's a weird amount of source material for Skibbity Toilet to make a movie.
If there's lore, I'm down.
There's actually lore.
Yeah.
There are like 22 seasons of Skibbity Toilet on YouTube.
Oh, that's way too many.
And each episode is like a good, I think, 15 minutes.
It's way too much Skibbity Toilet content.
Yeah, it's a lot of Skibbity Toilet content. So,
if this is lucrative and there is story to tell, go for it. Like, it's Michael Bay. This is not some like high prestige filmmaker.
No.
Who's if anyone was gonna make this thing, I feel like he's a good guy to do it. I don't know.
Yeah. He made Transformers.
He made 6 Underground with Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, he made 6 Underground with Ryan Reynolds. He made a couple of Bad Boys movies.
He did. Bad Boys, Bad Boys.
So what you gonna do when he makes a Skibbity Toilet movie?
Why?
See what I did there?
Why is this happening? I saw what you did there.
All right. That being said, I think we can move on at this point. Yeah, not much more to say except Skibbity Toilet. Bop, bop.
I will not indulge in the Skibbity toileting.
Okay. Star Wars Lando series has been shelved.
No!
Sadly, this apparently was pretty well into pre-production, but has still been shelved regardless. I have mixed feelings on this because, it was well into pre-production. They've done a lot of work on it already. Why not finish the job? But also, Star Wars has made so many mediocre TV series.
Yeah.
And after the hate towards The Acolyte and the fact that they previously announced 3 upcoming movies, I think they're trying to shift their brand back to being a movie brand and not a TV brand.
And this is
ever since
instead
the pandemic,
of a series, now it's a movie, right?
No, it's just shelved. It's not
really?
Coming out at all. Yeah.
I have an article up that says it's being developed as a movie.
When did that article come out?
It came out today from IGN.
Oh, then never mind. Okay.
Yeah, from this morning.
All right. So then we got conflicting bits of stories. So then it's becoming a movie. All right.
Woo!
Awesome.
Lando.
Or possibly becoming a movie.
Yeah.
So either way, I think that's a good thing. I think it's better to see these brands shifting to going back to the movie theater. I think that means there's money to be made at the movies that they are realizing can be made, and that's good for this business. and
Yeah.
good
It
for. I
it
think,
also though I think is worth mentioning that like even if it's still gonna be a thing, it being changed from a show to a movie, they apparently like switched who's now in charge of it creatively. And so
mhm.
it definitely beyond just the medium is going to be very different from what it would have been before.
Yeah, but I think that
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah,
And
I mean we didn't know what it was going to be. So,
exactly. And I just, again, I think like the real protagonist of this podcast has and will always be the movie theaters
yeah.
more than anything else. And this is a win for the movie theaters because they're just getting another big budget Star Wars movie that's going to be going to them.
Yeah.
And chances are that's going to be featuring Donald Glover. And I'd say that
Yes.
Donald Glover can be a pretty big draw.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Danny and Michael Filippo wrapped production on their newest horror film, Bring Her Back. This stars Paddington and Shape of Water star Sally Hawkins. So, could be a great time. I think it's being produced by A24.
Yep.
Just very exciting stuff. Thought I'd mention that.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Bipartisan legislation is looking to be passed by the end of the year to have making AI replicas of people without their consent being illegal. Something like this should already be illegal,
Yeah.
but seems like it's now being made illegal and has the backing of like AI companies.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat. Like it's neat
Good
that these
stuff.
AI companies aren't pushing for that way of their power to be abused. Like they're like, okay, we should draw a line here.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think that also means that the robots haven't taken over the AI companies just yet.
Not yet. They're getting
Not
there.
yet. They are getting there.
They're like slowly making a push, but we're not letting it happen. Or at least we're trying to not let it happen.
Exactly. So while the humans are making decisions, they're going to make the decisions to make this illegal before the robots can overturn it.
Yes.
Yeah. There we go.
Good
Yay
stuff.
for humanity.
Woo.
Doug Liman and Jake Gyllenhaal didn't receive any extra money after the huge success of Roadhouse on Prime Video.
Boo!
Yeah. Typically, when a film does well on streaming, you should be receiving extra money to compensate for the fact that it didn't go to theaters. But neither of them received said extra money. And to kick out the news, I was going to say kick off, but then I realized kick off is start, so kicking out, I guess, the news is Squid Game concluding with its third season in 2025. The second season is coming on December 26th this year. So putting these final two seasons really close together, guess we'll find out if it's any good. I'm kind of pessimistic.
How much have they done on the third season so far? Anything?
No idea.
Because I would assume
I did not
it's
see
like,
that in the report.
If not under production, like at least having it written if they know that at this point that it's going to be 2025.
Yeah, I would guess that they probably did a chunk of it at the same time as season 2 production, and maybe it was back-to-back productions,
right?
Maybe. I don't really know, but it's coming in 2025.
I'm just really curious to know what the second season's going to be, because the first season very much did not need a follow-up.
No.
And part of me is worried it's going to go the Hunger Games route, where like the games are the best part of the thing, but that maybe the story itself shifts away from the games and more about taking down the people in charge of the games.
That's
which, like,
probably exactly what it's going to be.
It could work, but I don't want that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Like I'd say with the Hunger Games, it worked in the books.
Yeah.
But it didn't really work then in the movies. So maybe with like a TV show it'll work better, because then you can really flesh things out more.
And I think the reason it didn't work in the Hunger Games movies is because the one out of the 3 books where that is what it is was stretched into 2 movies. If they are doing seasons 2 and 3 so close together, I would assume that story-wise they are much more connected than 2 is to 1. And that then leaves me worried if that's the direction they're taking, but we'll see. Like again, I do really like the first season, and if what made the first season great is then done in the second, or if they shift and do something else, but that's still good. Like, I'm down. I'm not
Me
opposed
too.
to this existing. I just want it to be good.
Yeah, I want it to be good too. And I guess we'll find out. December
Yeah.
26th, day after Christmas.
Whoop
Late
whoop.
Christmas gift, you could say.
Yes.
Yes. Shifting over to the box office, Deadpool and Wolverine tops the box office for a second straight weekend, making $96.8 million with a $824.1 million worldwide total. It's going to make $1 billion, probably going to make a lot more than $1 billion. So good for that movie. Dropped only 54% at the box office. Huge
Yeah.
hold for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Here's a question. How many weekends will it be number one when all is said and done, do you think?
I think there's a good shot it only has one more weekend at number one.
Yeah.
Because you got Romulus coming out, and I'd assume that Romulus will make around Quiet Place numbers, which I think was 60s.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm assuming that by then, Deadpool and Wolverine, plus it's going to lose all of its premium screens, will
That's
be
true.
making somewhere in the 40s.
Okay.
But what had an even better hold than Deadpool and Wolverine is, get this, with a 35% drop, Twisters.
That's
made
nuts.
insane drop. Made $22.8 million, $274.4 million worldwide, like just total so far. What's kind of crazy to me is that they announced an August 13th digital release.
That's dumb and bad.
Yeah, it's been really successful. It just had an insane hold, and they just announced that it's going to be hitting digital on August 13th. Happens to be my mom's birthday, but still.
That's a week from when this episode comes out. Like, that's...
Yeah.
There is so much money to still be made from it.
Exactly. Like, announcing the digital release took the wind out of Quiet Place's sales.
Yeah.
And I think A Quiet Place probably could have made, like, it's sitting, just to kind of spoil where we were going to go eventually, at $258.8 million. Probably could have gotten a lot closer to 300 if it didn't release digitally so early on July 30th.
It boggles my mind that studio executives want nothing more than to make money for their studios and yet consistently shoot themselves in the foot when they have actual successful films.
Exactly. And some might say, oh, but what if digital is more profitable for the studios? Well, then why is Inside Out 2, a movie that has just hit its 8th weekend in the theaters, why is that movie not out on digital yet?
Yeah.
Like, an 8 weekend, 100-day type of release for a film in the theaters was normal previously. And that's what Inside Out 2 is doing. That's probably what Deadpool and Wolverine is going to do. Yet, these other films that want to compete with these movies are not doing that. And what we have so far gotten this year is that Disney is back dominating the box office like they used to.
Yes.
And it seems to be in large part thanks to the fact that they are genuinely respecting the theaters. I mean, I think even Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes had a pretty long theatrical run. Let me just look this up quickly. So Kingdom was made available on July 9th.
Okay.
So it got a long time to just sit in theaters. And that wasn't even a proper Disney movie. That was a Fox film. That movie came out in the middle of May. So it essentially got almost 2 months in the theaters. So not as long as Inside Out 2, but close.
I find this such a compelling and silly issue because there is a very obvious solution, and that is if you are releasing a movie in theaters, keep it in theaters. Because as soon as you announce when it is hitting digital streaming, whatever, people who haven't already gone to see it then have a date. And if they don't want to wait until that date, then they'll go see it. But if that date is like Twisters in a week, nobody who knows that date is now going into the theater to see Twisters because they can watch it at home in a week.
Exactly. And I would say that what I hope studios begin to adopt, because Universal set up a precedent that I think worked for the pandemic, but is now starting to not work, which is if a movie is unsuccessful or not as successful as you want it to be, to give it 2 weeks and then send it straight to digital. What I think should start happening is there should be a 3-weekend rule. You give a movie 3 weekends to perform in theaters without announcing any sort of digital release. If it's still not performing well after the 3rd weekend, put it out the next day.
Yeah.
Just do it. But if it's doing well, let it keep going. Because you look at a movie like The Fall Guy, for instance, which performed not too great in its first weekend, but then proceeded to drop only 50%, 39%, and 29% in its previous weekends. It held really well, despite a very early digital announcement, which I think was like Memorial Day weekend or the weekend after that.
Yeah.
So imagine how much better The Fall Guy could have done if it just didn't have that digital release announcement.
Yeah. Twisters is one of the biggest movies of the summer, and like opening weekend made way more than anybody thought it was going to. It's been holding really well. And so to announce this, which is essentially 3.5 weeks between opening day and when you can watch it at home, it sucks the wind out of it. It just completely
It
like,
does.
yeah, I don't get it. Explain this to me, top Universal people.
I don't get it either, especially when there's not really any movies that are aiming for the niche that is Twisters, which is this more kind of Midwestern audience. No movie is targeting that demographic whatsoever. Yeah. Anywho, moving on. We got Trap. Made $15.45 million with a overall $20 million worldwide gross this weekend. Was predicted to open at $20 million, according to our averages of the websites Box Office Pro, The Numbers, and Deadline. So now, just to do a brief review for Trap.
Before we get into the review, can I hit you with something?
Yes, you can hit me with something.
I wanna ask you a question. You know the butcher?
Yeah.
That crazy nut job that goes around town chopping people up? Fed's got word he's gonna be here today, so they set up a trap for this whole concert. It's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just when that scene happened, it was as great as it was in the trailer. Yeah. And without spoiling anything, there's a mid-credits scene that plays off of that scene, and it is the funniest thing I have seen in a theater all year.
Yeah, I loved it. That mid-credits scene was awesome. So good. So, anywho, what I just got to say is I was a little worried that scene wasn't going to be there. I was kind of worried that scene, like at one point, there was a point, I think we were 20 minutes into the movie, and I was like, we haven't gotten that scene yet. What if that scene was only for the trailer as a way to like tell the audiences what the film is about? Because I feel like that would be kind of a good idea, to shoot a fake scene for a trailer and only use it for the trailer that dumps some exposition. Seems like a bad scene, but really that scene is only meant to give a summary for the audiences about the movie. Yeah,
I never thought it was going to be that, though, because like it's at least for the first trailer, it was such an essential scene. Like that was the scene of the trailer.
Yes.
And so to have it not be in it at all, I feel like would have been a little weird. But I can
I
see
agree.
the thinking.
But I was a little worried because it took a while to get to that scene. Yeah. And overall, to me, like the way I would sum up this movie is a tale of two halves. One half that just drags too much for me. First half dragged. Really? Second half I thought was a blast. An absolute blast.
We completely disagree.
I loved the second half of this movie.
We completely disagree on this.
Are you the opposite?
Wow. I'm the I wouldn't say I'm the opposite, because I think that infers that like I thought the first half was a blast and the second half dragged. I don't think the second half dragged. I just think are we going to get into spoilers?
I don't think so. I think let's stay out of spoilers.
Just in terms of like the structure of the movie. Because it's not at the concert the whole time.
Yes.
I think that when it is at the concert, like that is the selling point of the movie. It's Josh Hartnett as a serial killer at a concert, and he has to try and find a way out because there's cops everywhere because the whole thing is a trap.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really great, and I think we'll get into it. There was a lot of stuff I liked. I think when it leaves the concert and there's still a lot of movie left, it suffered for me because
Really? Okay.
I didn't know it was leaving the concert, and I didn't
I
know it
didn't
was
either.
happening that early. And while there's an element of, ooh, where is this going? I'm interested to see where it's going. I think it's just that for too long that by the
Mm-hmm.
end I was way tired of it. And I think the writing, honestly, when it's more of this contained thriller, the writing is better. And I think the writing, in a weird way, was one of my favorite aspects of it. And so for it to lose
Really?
that contained element, I thought was not a great idea that early on.
Gotcha. My take on it was that, yes, it was contained and that was interesting, but to me, it just felt like all of the scenes within the contained element felt very similar and all felt like they were achieving the same goal. So it just felt really repetitive for me. And we
Okay.
just kept having scenes that all felt the same, in my opinion. So, what I really appreciated was when we got to this other half that didn't feel like that, where all the scenes really felt like they were achieving different goals, where there was tension, where I didn't know what was coming and didn't know when or how or anything about how this movie was just going to unravel. I enjoyed that so much more because the contained element, it felt a lot more simple. He gets out or he doesn't get out. But once it leaves that, it felt so much more open ended.
I don't think it did though, because at that point you already there's not much to his character. Like
There isn't.
he's a fairly one dimensional, and like Josh Hartnett is giving a very good performance. I think he's incredibly charismatic. He
Mm-hmm.
owns the screen whenever he's on it, which is most of the time. But I think that because there is so little to his character, we know enough about him and how he operates that once we get to that more unpredictable structure in the second half, you still kind of know what he's going to do. And knowing that much sucks the life out of it a little bit because while you
Really?
don't know setting wise where we are headed or exactly what's going to happen, we know what he's going to do. Like, whatever situation he gets put in, we know how he's going to handle it. And I think that made it less exciting. Whereas the first half, he didn't expect to be stuck in this like concert arena, and so watching him try to figure out how the hell he's going to escape and the methods that he employs to try and make that happen, I think was more interesting because in the concert, he's out of his element and like he doesn't know it's a trap. Once he's
Mm-hmm.
out, the world is his oyster. And while there are still certain situations he's being put in that he has to try and figure out, how do I stop this? Like, how do I remain hidden
Yeah.
under the guise of loving Taylor Swift dad? It's I don't know.
Hmm.
That's just my opinion though. I like how
Interesting.
we
Yeah.
seem to be on the same spot of like quality wise where the movie is, but
Yeah.
for vastly different reasons.
Yeah. And so something I texted you after watching this is that this is like the Beekeeper, but for horror movies this year. Would you agree?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love this.
it's not
It was
quite
so
at
good.
that level for me where I'm
Hmm.
gonna laugh at it, but it is. M. Night Shyamalan is such an interesting director.
Hmm.
I don't even know if I'd say he's a good director, but he's always interesting.
He's always interesting.
And this was maybe more than anything else he's done recently. It was just really compelling, and even if it wasn't always good, just the filmmaking was I interesting. Like, it's such a lame word to use. It doesn't give anything, but it was just interesting. It is shot like we mentioned this last time. It's shot on film. There's some really cool angles and like perspective shifts that he plays with. And so I think that's cool. The dialogue is terrible,
I loved
but
it. I
I
loved it.
loved it, and I think
Yeah.
it works because Josh Hartnett's character, despite appearing on the surface as this regular dad guy, is a serial killer. And other than that, which we don't see him doing serial killing. We just know he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
And so to have that of like Josh Hartnett delivering this weird off dialogue through the guise of being this like lovable fun guy, but there is so clearly something off about him, and it's not so off. Like the sentences aren't things that you would never hear. It's just maybe a word or two, and the tone is maybe a little off.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, slightly that there is something wrong with him, but not so much that you don't believe everyone else thinks he's normal. And I think that really worked, and I was really surprised by that.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. So I guess overall for me, I'd give it 3.5.
I initially gave it a 3, and I think gonna move it up to a 3.5 because I've liked it more as I've sat with it.
Yeah. It's just like I have it right next to The Beekeeper personally, like on my list, like right below it. And
I have it right above
I'm proud
it.
of that. Really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't have it above it. The Beekeeper was your baby.
Well, no. Like I have Trap right below The Beekeeper.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So we have the same then.
All right.
Yeah. Look at that.
Good stuff.
There you go. Great stuff.
Can Josh Hartnett and Jason Statham like do a collab?
They should. They totally should. I 100% watch that. All right, let's fire through the rest of the box office real quick. Got Despicable Me 4 made $11.45 million, $752.2 million worldwide total, dropped only 21%.
Really good hold.
It hits digital this Tuesday. It's on digital. We already talked about this, so we don't need to repeat ourselves, but it's probably going to have some wind taken out of its sails coming next week. Inside Out 2, 6.8 million, 1.56 billion, dropped also only 21%. Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Can we backpedal first? Because I have a fun fact for Inside Out 2. It has now made more money than The Avengers and is now in the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time. It's in the 10.
It is.
That's nuts. That's
unadjusted for inflation.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
when is anything adjusted for inflation?
You know, that's good. That's a good point. Yeah, because we want to pretend inflation doesn't exist to make these numbers better than they are.
National minimum wage hasn't been adjusted for inflation. Anywho, that's a whole thing. Harold and the Purple Crayon
made $6 million, $9 million worldwide total. Predicted to open with 11.1 according to our combined sources of the numbers and Deadline.
Vibes.
So Deadline was right on the money at $6 million.
Deadline was right on the money.
Deadline was right on the money, I think, for Trap too. I think it said 15.5 to 16.5.
I'm willing for the auction to only use Deadline based on how the next couple weeks play out. I think, if Deadline continues to be the closest of the three, then I think we just stick with that.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to offset outliers that may happen, but if they don't happen, that's great.
Yeah, because all that's happening right now is that the numbers in Box Office Pro are making Deadline be an outlier, even though it's the most accurate so far. That's what's happening. So we'll continue to see how that does, but right now
we'll see. I'm winning Box Office right now.
You are,
narrowly.
But then if we do end up agreeing to change it to Deadline, then you wouldn't be winning Box Office.
I wouldn't, but I want to be, and
you do want to be. We will.
If Deadline's the only one we should be using, I'm willing to only use Deadline. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see how it goes in the coming weeks. Long Legs made $4.1 million, $79.4 million worldwide total, dropped 39%. The Firing Squad, I think it's like a documentary, made 1.6 million. A Quiet Place Day One made 1.4 million with 258.8 million worldwide total, dropped 56%. And Ponyo had a re-release, made $800,000, now at a $204 million worldwide total.
Ponyo, fishy in the sea.
Thank you for that.
Yay.
I needed that in my life.
Of course.
Out of the top 10 is now Bad Boys Ride or Die, the movie that kicked off what's been a really solid summer box office slate outside of May.
Yeah.
You know, there's May and then there's after May. And Bad Boys kicked off after May.
We had a rough
ever since
start,
then,
but
it's
now
been
we're
great.
cooking.
Exactly. And then there's Fly Me to the Moon, which has been one of the biggest disappointments of the summer. Apple put $100 million into this movie. I think it's generated around $30 million in like worldwide
Yeah.
revenue. What a
37.7.
disappointment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just what an absolute disappointment. Pretty solid film. I still recommend it. And coming out next weekend, we have Borderlands, the video game movie starring Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and a lot more people.
Like Jamie
Big
Lee
cast.
Curtis.
Oh yes, Jamie Lee
things.
Curtis. I forgot about Jamie
Randomly.
Lee. Just
Eli
yeah,
Roth's
very random.
Borderlands, get ready.
I've heard mixed things so far.
Okay, I haven't
the
heard
people-
things yet.
Well, because it's still under embargo, but then what people under embargo like to do is make like slight comments. And
Okay.
based on the slight comments I've heard, it seems mixed.
All right.
Yeah. Then there's It Ends With Us. This is the Blake Lively romance film based on the Colleen Hoover bestseller. I'm seeing this on Wednesday at what they're calling It Ends With Us Girls Night Out. It is almost a sold-out theater.
Dang.
On a Wednesday night. It was so popular that they had to add a second time slot.
I mean, Girls Night Out is like good marketing for this. Like
it is good marketing.
That's solid. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm prepared to be the only man in that theater. I will be among the girls on their night out.
One would consider that an enviable position. Others not so much.
Yeah.
As long as you hype yourself up for it, like you'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna kind of be sweaty and gross because I'm probably gonna have gone to the gym before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna be sitting between like a bunch of people that are like going to it as an event, and I'm just gonna be like sweaty and disgusting, eating like Reese's Pieces.
Oh God. I feel
And then
bad for everyone in that theater, including you.
Thank you for feeling bad for me. But anywho, last but not least is Cuckoo, the Hunter Schafer body horror movie.
Hype.
Kind of, I'm pretty excited for the fact that this is a body horror movie. That's the last one that is worth mentioning. So,
all three are on your auction slate.
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't even think about that.
You.
Yeah. Huge weekend for me in terms of my auction, where I think after that, I'm just left with The Crow and then Alien Romulus. Yeah. Which is, I'd say that I feel really good about my auction slate.
I felt terrible in going back onto our spreadsheet today, like filling stuff in for the first time for this weekend. I'm feeling better. I don't think I'm gonna win any of the 3 rounds, but like I have a decent foundation where after 1 week and 1 movie from each of us, I am narrowly beating you.
There you go.
So,
yeah,
it won't last, but it's great right now.
Yeah, my one regret is putting Harold over Borderlands and The Crow. Honestly,
okay,
I think Harold should have been my bottom movie.
I regret putting Trap at my number 1, given that it's only a 3 on Letterboxd and made less money than it was supposed to.
Yeah, but what would you have put at number 1 over Trap?
I don't know. Alien Romulus, if I had gotten.
Yeah, but you don't have Alien Romulus. So what would you have done? Blink twice?
Maybe. I feel like that's not going to be great in the box office
on a directorial debut. Yeah,
I don't know. There's Channing Tatum's in it though.
Channing, yeah, but
who knows?
Trap's got Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
So win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess now, just before we sign off, this Friday, if you want to watch an episode of What the Film, you will be watching the first episode of our 2010s movie tournament. This is a 5-episode mini-series that we are going to be doing on this podcast. First episode has what we are calling the Parasite quarter of the bracket. This is a 128 movie bracket.
Yeah.
We spent weeks setting it up. I think
we've watched
guest
a lot
star,
of movies.
Yeah, our guest star Brendan almost watched 20 movies.
It's a lot
for this. Yeah, just to like catch up. As a little preview, I might as well just share some of the big tentpole movies on this part of the bracket. You got Parasite, Godzilla, Thor Ragnarok, Joker, Amazing Spider-Man, Midsommar, Ready or Not, Arrival, Toy Story 3, The Avengers, Megamind, Rogue One, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, La La Land, The Hateful Eight, Deadpool, Infinity War, Zootopia, Django Unchained, Us, Black Klansman, Coco, The Last Jedi, The Lego Movie, and so many more.
Vibes. Get hyped. It's
lot
good. You'll
of-
like it. Listen to it. Watch it. Do whatever.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun making this. So far, we have made that quarter, and then we made a different quarter. We got 2 more quarters to go, and then after that, in mid-September, we'll be dropping a Sweet 16 episode where we have our final 16 movies on the bracket, and we conduct those matchups. So Get hyped. It's going to be a great time. And also acts as a great way to help us get settled into college and not have to worry about making 2 episodes every week while we're
less content, less stress. Woo!
Yeah. Or at least for the first few weeks. And then there's going to be stress again.
Woo!
Woo! All right. Well, get hyped. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Great stuff.
Peace out.
Ethan,
Peace
do
out,
you have
homies.
any final words? Just peace out?
Just peace out, you know?
Beautiful.
Peace out. Yeah.
All right. Peace out, everybody.